I want to tell you about one of the most important people in my life. It was the summer of 1990. I was at a park watching some kids play on a playground. One child stood out, a small boy. Somehow he'd managed to pull himself up so that he was on top of the beam that ran across the swing set. I watched as he teetered there a moment, straightened, and then raised his arms, posing like an Olympic gymnast. That was the first time I saw my son Josh. He was 6 years old. By the time I met him, he had already blown out of more than 15 foster homes. He had emotional issues, learning delays, behavior problems. He was hyperactive, aggressive, destructive. None of that mattered to me. I wanted to adopt him. I wanted to be his mom. Raising Josh was difficult, and sometimes I ask myself, if I could go back, knowing then what I know now, would I do it again? Honestly, I'm not sure. I love my son, and we had some really good times. Snorkeling in Hawaii, skiing in Utah, but there were also some really painful years with visits to mental hospitals and calls from the police. On the other hand, how could anyone look at a 6-year-old with his big brown eyes and toothy smile and say, "You're beyond hope"? What I didn't realize until later was the enormous impact all of those disruptions in foster care had on Josh's developing psyche, his sense of himself and his sense of the world. I want you to think about something for a minute. You're at home and a stranger comes to the door. He looks at you and says, "You have to come with me. I'm moving you." No one else in the family's moving, just you. You cry and hug your spouse. "Honey, I don't want to leave." Your spouse might cry too, but it doesn't matter. The stranger takes you anyway. He drives you to a different house, and on the way he tells you, "Tomorrow you'll start a new job at a company you've never heard of." He introduces you to your new spouse and then leaves. Your new spouse tells you to call him honey. It's crowded and noisy there, so you decide to take a walk. But after only a couple of blocks, you get disoriented. What street was that house on? You think to ask for directions, but then you realize you don't know honey's real name. How does that make you feel? Confused? Scared? Angry? Now, imagine that you're starting to get used to the new home. You're comfortable in your new job. Maybe you've made a friend. And then one day, without any warning, another stranger comes and takes you to a different house with a different job and a different honey. Now, imagine that scenario repeats itself again and again and again and again, 15 times. You don't know why this is happening to you. You think your real family must hate you. You decide that you're bad, unlovable. Josh bounced around in foster care so many times, I can't imagine the emotions he must have felt. I think that in desperation to find some way to control his life, he figured out that in every foster home, there was a deal breaker. The one behavior that was so bad, it would make the mom in the house pick up the phone and call the social worker. He realized that forcing the mom to kick him out gave him power. He might still have to move, but now he was in charge of when. He got so good at finding those deal breakers that the Department of Children and Families ran out of places to put him. And that's where I came in. I welcomed him with open arms and an open heart. I told him, "I'm your forever mom." That's what the adoption books call it. What possible meaning could that have had for Josh? How many women in his life had told him to call her mom? This is your forever home. But the more I tried to convince him that I was different, that he wasn't going anywhere and neither was I, the more frantically he searched for that deal breaker. Every interaction, every moment of every day was a battle. He could take the smallest thing, "Josh, you have something on your face," and escalate it into a tantrum so severe, I was honestly afraid he was going to hurt himself. he would bang his head against the floor or try to climb out a second-story window. I would have no choice but to physically restrain him. I'd sit behind him on the floor and hook my legs over his. Then I'd take his wrists and cross his forearms in front of him. With his arms and legs pinned, he would butt his head back against my chest. So I would rock to absorb some of that impact. We'd sit there like that, my whole body working to keep his under control, him struggling to escape, trying to bite my arms, spitting and screeching and swearing. Sometimes this would go on for hours. At the end of one particularly grueling day, after Josh had been with me for about a year, I had an insight into what might be driving this behavior. And it's not what you might think. I was holding him. And even after he stopped trying to get away, I just continued to hold him. I was too tired to move. After a while, he relaxed in my arms. And then he snuggled against me. I was shocked. Josh never cuddled. He barely let anyone touch him. And I thought, is it possible that he just wanted a hug? That no one had ever taught him how to give or get affection? I held him like that until he fell asleep. Then I gently brought him upstairs and tucked him into bed. I said, as I did every night, I love you, Josh. And as I was turning to leave, I heard him say for the first time, I love you too, Mom. I wish I could tell you the story has a happy ending. Josh and I continue to struggle with our relationship. He's 33 now, and he's still trying to find the deal breaker. Right now, he's not speaking to me. I hope one day he'll want to reconnect. And when he does, I'll welcome him with open arms and an open heart. Thank you.